Hey man, UFC is so freaking huge and successful that to this day there are people, I've actually heard this, to this day there are people that confuse the word MMA with UFC. I swear I've heard this. They go like this, oh, I know someone that does UFC. Now, those guys are ignorant, bro. Like, they don't really watch it, but that just shows you how big, how UFC is MMA, man, okay? This is Donn Davis. Donn Davis is the owner of PFL. Now, PFL just acquired Bellator, if you guys haven't heard. Much props, okay? But Donn Davis says something about UFC and Dana White. There's no way this is gonna happen. I understand competition is good to be competitive. It's good to believe in your product. But this is never going to happen.
How close do you feel like you are now to the UFC? I saw a press conference recently where Dana White was talking about 200 million, 300 million. Clearly, those numbers were wrong. And I think, in fairness to him, he was sort of fed that in the question. But nevertheless, he seemed somewhat dismissive of this asset. What are you buying here? In your opinion, you seem, based on what I'm hearing here, it feels like it's a great deal. You feel very bullish on what you just purchased. How close do you feel like you are now to the UFC?
Everybody knows Dana well enough that he only dismisses things that worry him, or else he just doesn't comment. He didn't comment on the PFL for 4 years because he wasn't worried. He's commented on the PFL a lot the last 6 months. He's worried. What specifically worried him about Bellator is the metrics we put on the press release. 30% of that roster ranked in the top 25 per fight matrix rankings. So this is not Dana gets to rank his own guys. Mm-hmm. Don's ranking his own guys. As you know, there's only one group that ranks all fighters, fight matrix, independently. 30% of the UFC roster is top 25 ranked, and now our combined company of PFL and Bellator, 30%. The same. Now, to UFC's credit, if you look at top 5 in the world, they still own the top 5, 1 through 5. So-called pay-per-view cards, we couldn't compete with them right now, which is why we're only going to have 2, and they have 12. Okay? Right. But if you say, I'm turning on TV on ESPN Saturday night, or I'm going to tune in Friday night to watch his Bellator International Series or PFL, our cards are going to be better. Better. Because what they put on this year was ranked 70, and what we're going to put on next year is ranked 40. That's why he said, I don't know why in God's green earth anybody's buying this. Because he's smart, and he knows that. UFC ain't the NFL. We're not the XFL. But he wants you to think that. And it's just a matter of time before that starts to get more well-known. And we're not number 2. We're a co-leader. He doesn't want that. That's what's going on.
Hey, come on, dog. Dana White is worried about PFL and Bellator? Are you serious? And the only reason like Dana White answers those questions and he makes those comments on the PFL or Bellator is because at the press conference he's asked that. Those reporters, they ask him, he answers, dog. Come on, man, let's be real. There's no way PFL or Bellator is gonna be co-leaders with UFC ever, dog. Ever. You know this, man. am I tripping? Really, dog? UFC is a culture, dog. Like, think about how many people around the UFC have made a lot of money because of the UFC. Ariel Helwani, no? I'm talking about like journalists, I'm talking about YouTube channels, I'm talking about whatever, dog. UFC and PFL or Bellator will never be co-leaders, bro. I know he said, oh, no, UFC's not the NFL and we're the XFL. Dog, come on, dog, let's be real. Like, UFC is the NBA and PFL and Bellator is the G League. There's still great players in G Leagues, right? There's a lot of good players in the G League that could play in the NBA. They could start for the NBA. But we're talking about the leagues. We're not talking about the fighters. I know he's going to throw out all the numbers like 30% of our fighters are 20 fighters. That doesn't matter, dog. You go ask an MMA fan, right? Hey, today there's UFC, there's a good UFC card, and same time there's a good PFL or Bellator card. Which one are you watching? 98%, and I'm being modest, bro, 98% will say UFC. You know it, and he knows it too. There's no way Dana White is worried about Bellator or... Dog, Dana White has UFC, bro. UFC, are you kidding me, dog? Come on, man. Like, once again, man, it's good believing in your product, man. It's good. It's great believing in your product. Competition is good. I like competition. I even watch PFL or Bellator once in a blue moon. But you can't compare it to the UFC, bro. And it's never going to be the co-leaders with UFC. UFC and Bellator and PFL are never going to be like this. It's always going to be UFC in a whole nother league and Bellator and PFL right here. Let's be real, dog. Okay? And I like this guy. This guy's cool. I was watching this interview. He's cool, bro. It's not like, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, bro. But come on, saying Dana White is worried about you guys, man. Come on, dog. Saying you guys are going to be co-leaders one day. Come on, dog. Let me know what you think of this in the comments. Do you think the PFL and the PFL and the Bellator, now that they merged, they'll be co-leaders with UFC one day? Let me know what you think of this in the comments, and it'll mean the world to me if you like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the noti. Thank you so much for watching.